Overall, Persona 5 Royal has been a marked, albeit a bit limited, improvement over the original Persona 5. What was still bad is still in fact bad, however the gameplay improvements and overall better paced palace design has made these aspects a hell of a lot less apparent, at least in most cases. In the original game, Okumura's palace sucked across the board. The setup was contrived and lame. The twist of what was to transpire telegraphed hours in advance, the dungeon itself being a tedious slog, and the boss fight a boring breeze. In Royal, the setup still sucks, the twist still telegraphed, and though the dungeon is better paced, it's still one of, if not the worst palace in the entire game. Having said that, there is one monumental change. The boss fight went from a boring breeze to one of the worst godforsaken things I have ever played. It's so demonstrably borked that the encounter is actually easier when playing on Merciless than it is normal or even easy. To say the battle is infuriating would be an understatement, and this isn't a case of get good. Unlike Shin Megami Tensei 4's Minotaur or Medusa, well-designed, rage-inducing bosses I'll be bringing up quite often, Okumura is neither fun to fight nor satisfying to beat. The player's hands are arbitrarily tied, and the mechanics at play are simply awful. Much like base Persona 5, you're on the clock, and have to beat down waves of robotic workers who all share a weakness. Right off the bat, you'll probably notice a glaring issue. You won't get the chance at an all-out attack despite every opponent being knocked down. This right here is what I mean by arbitrarily tying the player's hands. Within the palace itself, these peons and mini-bosses could all be knocked down, thus leading to an immensely damaging all-out attack. It would rarely kill, sure, however it would stand the enemies back up, allowing you to knock them all down again if you played your cards right. This, above anything else, is what makes this fight as cancerous as it is. For the first few waves, this isn't an issue. The enemies have sensible health pools and can be dispatched rather quickly. It isn't until you get to the final wave, perhaps even the one before that, where cracks begin to show. These jolly green assholes can honestly go fuck themselves. What's maddening about this segment is a compounding force of cancer. First, you have Okumura debuffing your defense and buffing one of his peons. This alone isn't a problem. Bit agitating, especially when he gets a magical out-of-nowhere third action to remove all your buffs because reasons. However, it's manageable and a bit expected. Where this becomes an issue, however, is both how much freaking health these four have, as well as their, shall we say, contradictory behavior. From what I can gather, this fight was meant to instill the importance of the baton pass mechanic, since, without using it, you cannot and will not beat this boss, no matter how hard you try. You simply won't be able to dish out enough damage, even when using a level 90 persona with severe almighty damage. Believe me, I tried. This is something I actually have no issue with, at least conceptually. In Shin Megami Tensei 4, this idea was the driving principle for the Minotaur and Medusa both. They were meant to instill into the player the importance of exploiting weaknesses, abusing the press turn system, while also making sure you weren't abused. These encounters made it clear that grinding in SMT isn't the way to go about things, that fusions, the right combinations, are the road to success. Persona 5 Royal fails in this regard for a number of reasons, one of the big ones being the removal of the all-out attack, an important component to the baton pass system. They work in tandem, and if you're missing one, you will not get the full strength of the other. During Okumura's fight, there are 4 enemies, the perfect amount of foes to get a full strength baton pass in. If you play your cards right, you should, in theory, be able to knock down all 4 enemies with a powered up attack, thus leading to an all-out attack which then stands up each opponent, allowing you to do the process all over again, allowing you to abuse the baton pass system. The absurdly beefy enemies and the boss fights, charming feature of only targeting one party member, encourages this playstyle. The enemy's turn will hurt, so you must do what you can to ensure there is never an enemy turn. If things go right and a party member never misses, you can get in roughly 16 attacks and 4 all-out attacks before your opponent can ever respond. The damage you could, in theory, dish out is enormous and highlights a strategy you may very well need for the rest of the game. If Okumura's boss fight was designed this way, I'd actually appreciate it immensely. Granted, it would be easy once you know what to do. However, if you don't, you're going to have a real bad time. Again, all-out attacks aren't present, so the best you can hope for is one full rotation followed by one powerful attack at the end. Since none of the robots stand back up, you then have to rely upon normal attacks which everyone, save for Joker and Haru, can't do sufficient damage with, because the enemy is only weak to Psychic and Curse. You will almost, without fail, have to go into an enemy round where they will focus down a party member. Granted, you can take steps to mitigate the damage taken, and with a bit of luck, prevent a party member from dying. However, there's a massive problem with this. What makes the battle one of the single worst things to come out of Persona 5 Royal. You're on the clock. Now, I don't mean this in the sense of the literal timer which is ticking down. That doesn't help. However, it unto itself is not the main issue. You have 3 turns tops to kill all 4 of these walking IEDs before they either run away or explode, and I put emphasis on kill. If either robot runs away or explodes, then another set of 4 fully healed trash cans will join the fight, meaning you'll have to do the previous wave all over again, but without the resources you used previously. And believe me when I say this, you will be using resources. I got real lucky during this fight because I had just enough curse bombs to allow for a few baton passes. If I didn't, then beating this fight would have been a hell of a lot more difficult. Would have needed quite a bit of luck setting up technical attacks, something I tend not to have. Once more, this idea of resetting the wave if all 4 enemies aren't defeated at once lends credence to the idea of killing your enemies before they get a chance to respond, to abuse the baton pass and all-out attack mechanics. But again, one of said mechanics is missing for reasons, I guess. This part of the boss fight seems to be confused, to say the least, which in turn makes the whole ordeal a miserable mess. It's frustrating, but for all the wrong reasons. It's forcing the player to use whatever tools they have at their disposal, but then kicks them in the nads while withholding one they so desperately need. It becomes infuriating and enraging for all the wrong reasons. You can see plain as day what has to be done, but can't do it because the game doesn't allow you to. This is the key difference between Persona 5 Royal's Okumura and Shin Megami Tensei 4's Minotaur and Medusa. I blew through the Minotaur because I heard he was going to kick my ass if I didn't prepare. So I built a team precisely for the purpose of murdering him. Medusa, however, is a different story. I didn't know she was coming, and she kicked my ass repeatedly. She made me mad. I got angry. However, I knew exactly what it was I had to do in order to win. I had a firm grasp over the mechanics, and proceeded to spend 2 hours, I shit you not, researching and fusing the right demons to defeat her, as opposed to grinding. The game gave me every tool I needed, so when I used them effectively, when I won, I felt an enormous sense of satisfaction. Okumura's fight fails. It's a frustrating mess you just want to end. Abject garbage, because it isn't difficult but fair like SMT4. It withholds core gameplay elements you need to win, and tells you to make do. You didn't learn anything from the fight, there aren't any takeaways, and when it's finally over, there's no gratification for overcoming something so difficult. You knew what had to be done, but couldn't do it. There's no enjoyment from the challenge because, unlike SMT, it wasn't fair. It wasn't fun. What's worse is the final 2 stages. You have a giant boss, which is a damage sponge that can one-hit kill you if you don't guard. Fun fact, when I fought this guy on normal, everyone was at full health, and despite guarding against the attack with defensive buffs, they were all almost killed. Each character, with buffs and guarding, I want to stress this, were dropped to a single point of health. Yeah, that frustrated me, but only because I didn't want to deal with the pure, distilled cancer that I just overcame. Having said that, I had to do precisely that. After defeating the sponge, I had to face off against Cognitive Haru. After beating her down, she decided to self-destruct. Now, again, despite guarding and having full health, she somehow killed Joker, and Joker alone, forcing me to restart the entire fight. I was level 45-46, playing on normal, and had the highest health stat among my party. I almost chucked my controller across the room, I was that angry. Funnily enough, when playing a Merciless to get increased weakness damage, these two instances didn't repeat. On my second attempt, well, fourth actually, this situation played out again. However, when Haru exploded, nobody was killed. Perhaps I just had bad luck, who knows. Regardless, the fact both enemies had attacks that could insta-kill to such a degree with such randomness and could soak damage on top of everything I've spent a while talking about made this battle one of the worst things I've experienced in the entire series. I'm not a game developer, however, I've seen what appears to be the intent of the battle done so much better in other games, especially those within the franchise. And for the one person who doesn't know, Persona is a spin-off of Shin Megami Tensei, hence the comparison and why I find it rather apt. Now, if Royal wasn't going for a Minotaur-style battle that instilled the importance of certain mechanics into the player's head, then that's just bad boss design. It shoehorns the player into playing one way, but arbitrarily makes said way harder by removing mechanics without any sort of explanation. It's infuriating, tedious, and above all else, not fun. I now understand why Akechi shot this prick in the head. But with that said, I've been Bufara191. Tell me what you thought in the comments down below. I'll see all you guys next time. Goodbye.